out in our little town of Spur, times were tough, but we had good, hard-working people.
Apparently it was a transient city where migrant workers or people would come through.
The people in town, a lot of the ladies would set up little stands down on our little 3-block downtown and sell trinkets and foodstuffs such as this. So I'm thinking, you know something nobody's doing is selling peanuts.
And he started a peanut sales business. And he bought peanuts in bulk, distributed them in paper bags and sold them.
By the second week I sold out at a nickel a sack of peanuts. And I had a milk bucket full of nickels. And my dad poured the bucket of nickels out on the table and I thought, I am rich.
Red is the kind of businessman that just does stuff. He worries about the accounting a little bit later. And it turns out he put too many peanuts in each bag, so he didn't quite cover his cost.
I was just stunned.
So in endemical Red style, he said, well, I'll just put fewer peanuts in the bag next time, and he made a profit next time.
I had a product that the people wanted. I had a source of funds, and that was my father. I had a source of labor, and that was me. What I didn't have was management to know what I was doing. And once I saw that I was putting too many peanuts in there to sell for a nickel, well then that's a lesson that stays with you all your life. I was dead set, and always was from the time I can remember, that I was going to go to college and get a college education.
He wanted to go to university because he knew that education was the key to everything, but he didn't have a means to pay for it.
I had to find some way that I could get a scholarship, and at that time I was trying to get an athletic scholarship.
His ticket would be, in his mind, to play football.
I wasn't much of an athlete, first place. Second place, I got out of high school when I was 16 because I skipped a year. So I wasn't exactly the most talent that people were looking for. So I hitchhiked around the state, and hitchhiking during World War II is different than now. Everyone was so patriotic. They were all trying to help each other. And if you were trying to get from one place to another, there was very limited transportation.
He hitchhiked to Austin and fell in love with it. He said it was the greatest place in the world. He just couldn't afford to go to UT.
He felt like that place was it. You know, he'd always heard that it was it, and then he got there and he realized that in fact it was everything that people had said it was, and that he had to figure out a way to get back to that campus and spend time there.
My choice always was want to go to the University of Texas, but I was going to go any place I could get in. So the last place that I hadn't been to, and making a circle around the old Southwest Conference, was in Waco at Baylor, because Baylor was the only school during the war that dropped football for 3 years. And I was a walk-on. They had walk-ons coming in from all over the state. And I thought I was going to make that team and go to school there.
Got close at Baylor and got cut right at the kind of final time. And Coach called him in and said, I've got two options.
You can go over to Tyler, Coach Wagstaff, who had a great program, or you can go down the road a few miles to Georgetown to a school called Southwestern University. And I said, isn't that a 4-year school? And he said, yes, it is. It's a good little school. And he said, as a matter of fact, about half of their team is made up of former Longhorn players who've already seen duty in the South Pacific and have assembled them, and they've brought them back and are putting them through a specialty in college, although they're still in the service. So you'll be playing with some very good football players. And I said, well, thank you very much for helping me. I will choose to go to Southwestern. So that's how I got in there.
He then went into the Army after World War II, came back, and his dream was to be at UT.
I go in the service, stay 16.5 months, come back, go to the University of Texas, and I got to stay there 3 years, and my dream was fulfilled. I wanted to be in a leadership role. I knew I couldn't be a doctor because I didn't do well in the sciences. So I decided, well, I better be a lawyer. But in the second year of law school, I really found out how confining that was, and particularly the first years of getting started. And I knew that wouldn't work for me. So I went down to sell cars for just a few weeks.
When he was in law school and took the summer and went and sold used cars in Corpus Christi, and he came back, and the dean of the law school said to him, "Red, how was your summer?" He said, "I made so much money selling cars in Corpus Christi." And the dean of the law school said, "Red, what's the most important thing to you?" He said, "To get rich as quick as I can. I'm tired of being poor." And the dean of the law school said, "You know, I'm not sure law is the best thing for you."
I found out the very first day that car salesmen didn't work much. They do pretty well, and I was knocking them dead. And where the average car salesman was selling 8 to 10 cars a month, I sold 35 cars the first month I sold. So I thought, hey, nothing to it. I was able to capture San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas in over a 15-month span and move right to the top.
This is Red Shine.
Let's have some excitement. Trade up today.
Race to Red McCombs for your choice of 45 special purchase 2011 and 12 Toyotas, all under 14,000.
Here's a guy that is worth billions of dollars because he's made every penny of it. And what's so unique with him is that he made it selling cars.
His status as an entrepreneur in not just the state of Texas, but it's world renowned.
He loves business, and I think he has such an optimistic view on his ability to wrap his arms around a business, an operating business, and get in there and make it run better.
He's a great businessman. He runs very tight ships. He's done a great job at taking companies that were often sort of challenged and turning them into business successes. And so, every time I see him, I want to talk about those and learn from him.
To this day, for a man that's had as much success as he's had, it still excites him. And that's really what makes him successful, is how excited he is to do what he does.
Red is known for his automobile dealerships, his land developments. He's known for his oil and gas production. He also has loved sports.
Probably one of the best stories about Red is when he owned a minor league baseball team in Corpus Christi.
That was the first really unique deal that I was able to pull off in my life. I got that baseball team for virtually nothing, and we won everything in sight for 5 years. But at any rate, I found out that I could do professional sports very well.
He's been the owner of the San Antonio Spurs, the owner of the Denver Nuggets, the owner of the Minnesota Vikings, and now he's got Formula One. He touches everything in the world. But what guy at 80 plus years old would buy Formula One because he wants to see it be great in the future? I mean, that's the kind of guy Mr. McCombs is.
Red loves the game. He loves all sports. And when the Dallas Chaparrals were dying, a man from Dallas came up to try to sell the team to somebody in San Antonio because they thought San Antonio could make it work. And Red wouldn't have anything to do with it. And finally the man challenged him and says, "Listen, you're the man that can make things work. You can make it work. Make me a deal." He kind of sits back and laughs and says, "I'll tell you what, I'll do a lease with an option to purchase. I'll lease the team from you. If I can make it work, I'll exercise the option. If I can't make it work, I'll send them back to you on the bus." And he said, listen, if you can't make it work, just tell them to go home.
First time San Antonio will have an owner who has a majority interest in the Spurs.
We are committed that this franchise in San Antonio will be the very best that there is in the NBA.
He used to tell me all the stories about his different coaches with the Spurs, and Coach Popovich, and when he was there as an assistant, and Larry Brown, and it was just so much fun to listen to the history. He just got so much knowledge in sports.
He tells a story about when he first took over the Minnesota Vikings, where he was trying to get the team to get more aggressive in the promotional arena, to sell more tickets, particularly in the preseason. And he brought some inspiration and some success to the Vikings that they had not seen before.
His big statement or saying with the Vikings was purple pride.
I'm sitting at my locker and I hear somebody yelling, "Purple pride, purple pride, purple pride." And all of us go running out of the locker room, and we see Red in this purple suit with the boots and the cowboy hat, and he's pumping his fist in the air, and we're like, who is this? And, come to find out that it's Red McCombs. He's a new owner of the team, and couldn't have been a greater departure from what we had experienced with the ownership group before, because it was 10 different owners. It was led by this guy named Roger Hedrick, very reserved guy, and it was pretty clear Red was putting his stamp on the organization from day one, and really infused an enthusiasm that kind of changed the entire fan base, certainly the team.
Red spent 1 month driving around personally to all the small towns in Minnesota, and going in, and he would go into the little diners and start yelling "Purple Pride, Purple," And Minnesotans, like many Midwesterners, are very conservative, socially people, and so they were kind of shocked by it was this big guy yelling at us, and what's he doing,
I love his enthusiasm. I mean, I've never seen him down. I mean, I'm sure there's times that he's been, but I mean, even after you say Red McCombs, this didn't work or that didn't work, if you saw him, you wouldn't have known it. I mean, he just was always so upbeat and just so supportive.
My favorite story from that year, we were playing Green Bay, had them beat in Lambeau Stadium, which is like a, emotional experience just to go to Lambeau if you're a football guy, of course. And we had them beat, flat had them beat, and Favre brings them back, impossible. It beats us in the last minute touchdown, and Red does not like to lose, and it knocks him back for several days if loses in anything, but let alone football games with teams in his own. So it's pretty much silence. Leave the suite, get into an elevator, and dead silence. Doors go down one floor, doors open up, and this kid is wheelchair bound, gets on wearing a Brett Favre jersey, and Red grabs him, just says, "You did it! You got your team through it," and just grabs him, and this kid's face just lit up. And of course, nobody else in the elevator had really any idea of that he was going to do that. And he went, just to me, that just it captured Red in one moment. Here he was upset, angry, but immediately thought about how joyful that was for that kid to see that experience with his team.
I think it's rare, probably in sports, where you have an owner that's as gregarious and as kind as Red is. And I think that guys, as much as you play for each other and you play for your coaches and you play for the fans, it's pretty cool to get that feeling that you also want to win for the guy that owns the team.
He takes his time to get to know people on an individual level. He's really good at reading situations. He is even better at analyzing people.
And it's all about relationships, and he understands that, and that's why he's been so successful, because he has so many relationships with so many different people, and just knowing that he can build it, and he can just carry on that conversation, and he doesn't mind carrying on the conversation, whatever it may be, from the football side of it to the business world, but he's always in tune to what's going on.
In all aspects, Red is a passionate human being. He is passionate about everything he does. He throws his whole self into all of his challenges, and that has brought him these marvelous achievements that he is so kindly sharing with so many. And you know, Red never had a boss in all the time that he built this unbelievable entrepreneurial empire in the state of Texas. But he did have one partner and his best friend, Charlene.
Not many used car dealers from Corpus make it that big. And I think Red made a really good decision when he married Charlene. I think that was the difference in used car dealers in Corpus.
Charlene is just a great partner for Red. She's what he needs to complete him in various ways. Sometimes she's a governor on what he does. And you know, Lord knows all of us men need governors every once in a while. Sometimes she's the chief cheerleader and supporter. She absolutely is the architect of their home life and their family life. And she's just a rock in his life. So people need to know Charlene if they don't know Charlene, and they need to know how important she has been in Red's life.
Charlene, amazing, strong, beautiful, smart woman that absolutely influences Red more than she probably ever will know and does know.
He knows, as he said, he married up. Charlene and he are just delightful people.
We met in a registration line at a school in Corpus Christi.
Coach had given me a slip to go to the administration building, turn it in, and get myself validated for the school and such. And there were several people in line, and she was about 3 ahead of me.
I had gone to Southwestern University as he had, and I was asking the lady at the reception desk if she had some catalogs from Southwestern so I could coordinate some of the courses I wanted to take. And he was standing behind me, 2 or 3 behind me, and heard me mention Southwestern.
And he noticed her and just had to meet her. Now he would say he noticed her legs and had to get in there and meet that woman.
Just the cutest thing from the rear. So I'm thinking, God, I hope she's got a pretty face.
He immediately stepped out of line and came up and introduced himself to me.
I stepped out of the line and I said, I spent some time at Southwestern and blah, blah, blah. That's how we met.
And I said, well, it's nice to meet you. And that's the way we met, in a registration line. I wasn't very impressed.
There was no way that I wanted to indicate to her how much I cared for her, because there were a couple other guys that were very interested in her. And one of them turned out to be a good friend of mine, and he told me, he said, I'm going to marry Charlene. I said, oh. Are you sure? He said, I've already bought the ring. So I decided I better get after it. And other than that, I probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger when I did. But she was the only person I ever considered marrying, even thought about. And after being married 64 years, I think it's going to work.
We've had a wonderful relationship for 64 years. It's a long time. It's a lifetime.
I think they are an amazing example of what marriage is supposed to be and how much they care and love for each other every day.
I think if you talk to my father and you asked his hobby, he would say it's work, because that's his passion. However, he always had time for us.
His priority has always been his family, and so we really appreciate that and we love him for that.
We have a very, very, very close family. His 3 daughters are the lights of his life, and it didn't take long for him to decide that when they were born. He wanted a boy, of course, but it's a blessing that we had daughters.
He's asked a lot about having the 3 daughters, and the answer that I like best that my dad has given in the past is that he loves it and he wished he'd had 6.
He loves his daughters tremendously. He loves his wife just beyond measure. He's very affectionate to everybody in his life.
You know, I've heard him talk about his grandkids and about his kids and his great-grandkids, and you got the sense as a player that you were part of that group, that you were truly family. And so being around him, you know, it meant so much to all of us, and I still treasure the relationship that I have with Red and the times that I get to talk with him.
Red McCombs and his family treat me and my family like family. I call it family by choice. And he does it because he understands that people make a difference, and he wants to make a difference with people.
He loves to see people succeed, and he loves to feel a part of that success. And it's certainly something that he's done an extremely good job of.
You know, he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and so that's one thing. I think he knows how much help and mentorship means to young people. I think he was helped along the way by some very key people, and he remembers that.
Red has been my mentor for as long as I've been in business by myself. He has always been there. He listens to me, gives me advice, and tells me when I'm right, tells me when I'm wrong. And believe me, it has meant the world to me. And he shared with me his stories of how he makes things happen. And I believe that that's the reason why I am where I am today, is because Red McCombs was there for me and treated me like somebody that he wanted to help.
I met Red as a senior in high school. My father had passed away my freshman year in high school. Met Red through a scholarship program. He was the presenter of the program. He asked me to come by his office, and so I did that. And we kind of hit it off, and he asked me what I've been doing to help support my mom since my father passed away, and I told him what I've been doing, working as a custom home builder, tool pusher type guy, errand guy. And he said, well, how much did the guy pay you? I said, $10 an hour. And he said, I'm not gonna pay you $10 an hour. He said, I'll pay you $7.50 if you want to work for me. And I said, sure, what do you want me to do? And he said, show up tomorrow in shorts.
And he showed up every morning and washed cars and, you know, cleaned air vents on top of the car dealerships and really worked every day, which I think he needed that. Every day about 2 o'clock or so, he would call me into his office, and so I'd quit washing cars and go sit with him and just got a sense of what he was doing. It was so important, I think, that timing happened where he met Red at that time, because he talked about the value of education. We walked through kind of how he got into a business or out of a business, and what was happening locally, and what to expect when I got to UT, why I should or shouldn't join a fraternity, why I should not get involved in different things on campus, and really pressed me to always take more hours and do more things and get outside of my kind of small circle of friends. Red really just started teaching him, and I don't know that Red actually knew that's what was happening, but he does now. He's probably known for his business acumen and his business accomplishments, but he's touched so many lives, and my life, it's changed my life forever. It's changed my family's life forever.
4 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and you know, I'm at this time a really washed up, you know, UT football player. I'm no good to the program anymore, and Red McCombs found out about this, and ever since, you know, we've had a dialogue where, you know, he'll call in to check on me occasionally, and pretty awesome thing for a man like Red McCombs to call your cell phone just to see that you're doing okay. And you know, rich or poor, I think that is what makes Red McCombs a great man. Because I don't get a lot of phone calls just from even great friends, you know. For somebody to go out of their way and to take their time to call and say, hey Dallas, you know, couldn't sleep last night, was thinking about you, just want to make sure you're doing okay. That's Red McCombs, and I think that is why he's such a great man.
I don't think I've ever met a family that's as generous as the McCombs. They've done so many things just for the university. They've done so many things for so many people in and around San Antonio and other universities. Every time I turn around, I find out that their name is on another building, and rightfully so, because they've paid for it. And that's a really neat legacy that they're instilling, not only to the university and how to give, but also to their family as they kind of pioneer after they're gone.
Red says it best, is Charlene and I had shared our resources forever, and they started getting attention when they had more zeros behind it all of a sudden. But this is something that's been a part of who they are from the get-go.
We both grew up during what so-called the old Depression days, and I was raised by my grandmother, who was a giver, and many, many mornings I would wake up and walk into the kitchen, and there were about 6 steps going down to the ground from our kitchen and from the kitchen door. And many, many mornings there'd be 3 or 4 men sitting on those steps eating. She would feed anyone who came by and said he was hungry. And that stuck with me as a child.
My dad never really earned much money when I was a kid growing up. He made 25 bucks a week, but they always shared with those who had less. And I learned the lesson very well, the joy of giving, as I call it.
They give in everything, in their presence, when they're with you. They give you their attention, they give you their hearts, they give you their ears if you have questions, and then they do give their resources because they know that somewhere along the line someone gave them an opportunity.
Red gave $50 million to add to the endowment of the McCombs School of Business. It was given in the form of a matching gift, which is every dollar of Red's gift that we wanted to use, we had to go out and find a matching or another dollar. So it juiced our endowment by $1 million, which goes towards faculty excellence, student scholarships, programmatic initiatives that would not have happened otherwise but for the gift. So the financial implications of the gift were phenomenal. I think attaching his name to it has had almost the same sized effect. I mean, everybody knows who Red McCombs is. He's a legendary businessman, not only in the United States but across the globe. He's also known as an entrepreneur and a very innovative business leader who cares deeply about the social impact of his business activities. And having that persona attached to the business school has been beneficial in that it has attracted a certain kind of student and faculty member that really likes those values, and it's added, I think, to the reputation of the business school dramatically.
If you ask Mr. McCombs, you know, he probably doesn't view, you know, what he did with the business school as a gift. You know, he probably thinks of it as an investment. And you know, I, like, you know, thousands of other people that have come through that school, you know, really benefit from having, you know, access to top educators and top facilities. And you know, I'd like to think that I'm, you know, in some way a product of that investment.
There's nothing that he will not do for the University of Texas. But it's not just giving money. He gets involved. In the business school, we have the business council meetings in Austin. He's there. When there's something to do with athletics, he's there. His support is far beyond financial.
I can't remember a significant event that's happened at the McCombs School of Business that he's missed. He comes to all the Hall of Fame dinners. He speaks at most of them. He comes whenever a student group asks him to come here on campus, and he speaks to them, and he's just tremendously engaged in the school. In fact, when I first got here, I thought it was important for me as dean, to know when he was on campus, you know, and to escort him around and be there to help him. And after a while, it became clear to me that I just didn't have enough time. He's here all the time. He comes, he's comfortable talking to students without any adult supervision. He's just engaged with everything that goes on here. In fact, I could not literally tell you all the things he does here on campus because he's just all over. He's ubiquitous, and we like it.
He puts his backbone behind it, he puts his muscle behind it, and he tells them how it is because he makes sure they understand they're running a business. And to be successful, they have to run it like a business.
One of the things that we did that helped us a lot was, this was early on when I'd gotten to Texas, and we took our whole executive staff to San Antonio, sat in a hotel room, and had Red come in and spend the afternoon with us and talk about marketing.
I was the big push behind the university becoming more commercial.
The Lost Dodge says, I'm concerned about the commercialization of college sports. What can we do to stop it? Red gets in his face in front of everybody on his staff and said, DeLoss, either you get with the program or not. It's going to happen with you or without you. Either you lead the band or you follow. You need to be out there. He said, your ticket prices are too cheap, you're not advertising correctly, you're not, it just goes on.
At that time, we still were selling the guy on the 40-yard line the same prices we're selling the guy down in the end zone. It was stupid, really.
Everything that Red said 25 years ago came to fruition. And because Red got in DeLoss's face and explained that he better get with the program and stop trying to stop it because it was going to happen with or without him, take a look at now, that is the highest revenue of any athletic department in the country. And it would not have happened if Red McCombs had not explained to DeLoss that the world was changing and he better change with it.
He was invaluable to us in how we changed things at Texas to make it better and make it more, do better financially.
Well, in doing the planning of it, we had a meeting up there and he had Jody and some of her staff just sitting in on it because we really were talking about how we were going to put that together and market it, blah, blah, blah.
I will never forget that meeting. Red was sitting with one of our fundraisers, who's unfortunately no longer with us, Jan Hughes, but Jan was a wonderful fundraiser and very new to the athletics staff. We were actually sitting at the X's building talking about needing funding to build the very first football suites in the stadium.
And I noticed that the conversation over a sandwich lunch was almost 100% football, nothing unusual. So I realized that she really wasn't into the conversation at all.
And Red, being the gentleman that he is, turned to her to initiate a conversation and said, who is women's athletics' biggest donor? And Jan said, well, we really don't have one.
Frankly, it made me sick to my stomach. So, get my car, come back to San Antonio, told Charlene, I said, we're going to do something. I mean, it's going to be significant.
The next thing I know, I'm going with Jan Hughes to San Antonio to meet with Red McCombs.
Jan and Jody rode to San Antonio, and Jan, who was an excellent fundraiser, leaned over to Jody and said, we are going to ask Red for $3 million. And Jody said, well, no one has ever given any kind of money to women's athletics of that ilk. And Jan said, we're going to go and visit with Red. He's going to tell us a lot of stories. And that's exactly what happened.
He started to talk about his grandchildren. And he said, I have some young guys that are grandkids and they played baseball and they had dozens of opportunities to play baseball. And then suddenly I have a granddaughter and she wants to play softball. And there are really not very many opportunities or any at all for her to play softball.
He said these women never get all the attention, of course, that the men do.
So that sort of led into a conversation, and he threw out a hypothetical, or what I thought was a hypothetical question. What would you do if I gave you $3 million?
And Coach Conrad said she totally choked and went, you would do that? And Jan was trying to kick her under the table.
I had to think a minute, but I knew that we were looking to build a state-of-the-art softball facility.
And I said, Charlene and I are going to give you $4 million to build the best facility in the country, and we're going to give you another $1 million to start an endowment. And Jody was just stunned.
At that time, it was the largest gift to any women's athletics program in history.
I've been nervous a few times in my professional career here, but I don't remember a moment that is quite as moving as this one.
This gift will make an enormous contribution to our students, to our athletic facilities, and especially to our women's athletic programs at the University of Texas at Austin.
It sent such a wonderful signal to our student athletes that you're important that there's credibility in women's sports and women's softball, and we're going to show the world that if the University of Texas has a world-class facility for softball, then that should influence what's happening across our state and across the country.
He made a lot of dreams come true, and he gave us a place that we can call home. And so many of us that come here, when we're here at school, this is home. I mean, this is our second home. We're here as much as we are at our apartments. So, you know, it's pretty amazing to be able to see that someone like him would donate and give us a facility like this.
It worked out beautifully for us. We were thrilled that it happened, and they've been strong and going stronger all the time. So we're proud of that.
Texas wins 3-2.
Anytime him and Charlene are on campus, I absolutely want to get our current team together and be able to meet him. I mean, I think that's something special, and he always takes the time. If he's here for, you know, more than an in and out for an hour, if he's here, he wants to take the time and just be able to share a few words with the team, and he's done that on several occasions, both him and Charlene.
We, of course, have been very, very involved in the athletic end of the university, and all of Mac Brown's career there. At the end of the practice season, we would have the entire team and all the coaches and their wives out to our ranch for a barbecue. We looked forward to it every year, and I know the students did, the players did.
You know, driving into Mr. McCombs' ranch, I mean, you're beat up, you're sore, you're not on the football field, so you're happy for lots of reasons at this time. You know, you've got a little break.
It was like going out to a little oasis right outside of Johnson City. I say little, it's not little, just like everything Red does, he did it on a big scale.
It's just this larger than life place, and you got a long drive, and you know, you're just looking, you know, in the pastures to the side as you kind of get to the end of this long road and turn into a big field in which he's got this whole big catering line set up.
And we all had porterhouse steaks that were, I mean, as bigger than the plate that you could put it on, and it was tremendous. There was a person singing, we were fishing, playing tennis, swimming. I mean, it was just a great getaway from the middle of camp and a nice place to rejuvenate to get ready for the season.
One of my favorite stories is one of the guys, he was a lineman and he wasn't from Texas. He was a big man. I was fishing with him, and he caught his first fish ever out at Red's Ranch, and that was exciting, and he landed it, and it was just the tiniest little fish, and he goes, one of the coaches yelled, it was actually bus champ, yelled at him, you know, that's just a minnow, and he goes, was minnow good to eat? And we're like, no! So that was fun. But just getting to see that he uses everything he has to give back and to show people new experiences. So just like this guy, you know, who's worked his whole summer to be on the team, we got to go out there and have a great experience fishing, and Red always uses what he has to give other people new experiences.
Besides Christmas, this is my favorite day of the year. I've survived 2 days, and I get 1, 2, or 3 ribeyes, and then I get to, you know, lay down on the tennis court and hear Mr. McCombs get us pumped up for the season.
He would finish with a message, and it was always a very strong, inspirational, motivational type message to the team about doing things right, about life after football, and then about winning.
You go from wanting to win to expecting to win. Now, quite frankly, there's not too many people that expect to win.
Everything he does, he plans on winning, right? And he does it to the best of his ability, and that's what he was instilling in everyone there. You know, you got to do everything to the best of your ability, give yourself the best possible opportunity to help the team, and then in the end come together as a team.
Red wanted to win and had a history of winning in business with other professional teams. It was something that he always strived for.
Anybody that knows Red knows that second place is not kind of anything he wants to talk about. So he's very much always inspiring and pushing us to be better than we are now.
It's all about attitude. And expecting to win is far different than wanting to win.
Red McCombs does not expect to lose. He always expects to win. And when Red McCombs is on your team, you're going to win.
I could never have had access that I have had, and to get into a position to do the things I've done without the University of Texas.
You know, Mr. McCombs' love for Texas runs deep. He just has pride in Texas, and it's awesome to see, and it's even more inspiring to see him give back.
Red is one of those individuals, first of all his name, Red McCombs, it's just so Texan.
His personality kind of embodies what Texas is. It's larger than life.
If he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something, and the genuine personality, big personality just comes through. He can't hide it.
He's just got this incredible appetite for what he does.
I don't take for granted that every call I've made in my career, people have returned. They didn't return it because they knew Brad. They returned it because it was coming from Red's office.
It's been such a lesson for me to see that giving yourself is equally as important as giving your resources.
Without people like Red, we can't get done what we do every day to provide the kind of student services that we do to our student athletes or our business students or others across campus. Those are transformative gifts for each individual student as they come through the University of Texas and go on hopefully to great successes when they get out of here.
His heart's bigger than all outdoors. What he's done for Texas is just unbelievable. His legacy will be here, forever.